A factory engineer calls his counterpart at the city in which the factory is located. Conversation goes like this. Say, Patrick, the city has that unregulated landfill east of town. Any idea how much methane is coming off of it, going straight into the atmosphere? The city engineer replies, well, no, but I don't think it's much. Well, why don't you check? Okay, I'll get back to you. He checks and he's amazed at how much methane there is and how offensive it is to the nearby African-American neighborhood. 20 circling vultures attest to that. The two engineers began to collaborate, and a year later, a public-private partnership is solidified. The city commits the $3 million in capital cost to capture and pipe methane 9 miles to the factory. The factory commits $50,000 to adapt 2 boilers, representing about 6% of the factory's total energy usage, to substitute the landfill gas for the current natural gas. The two agree on a price for energy that's 30% less than natural gas per unit of energy, and calculations indicate the landfill will produce methane for 40 years, which translates into a financial advantage to the city at present value of some $35 million for a $3 million investment. A further advantage emerges as methane is drawn off, the entire landfill volume is drawn down, increasing its capacity, enough to allow the city to postpone opening its next landfill for an estimated 15 years. This is win-win-win, new and synergistic thinking. Recapping who has won, the city reaps a huge financial advantage in return on its investment, converting a polluting waste stream into a lucrative revenue stream and postponing the cost of opening a second landfill for years. An offensive public nuisance is eliminated and environmental injustice corrected. The factory reduces its energy costs, and the landfill energy is used to power the factory's newest recycling process, renewable energy for a renewable process. The Earth has spared greenhouse gas emissions that contribute 21 times as much as carbon dioxide to global warming. Methane is that powerful as a greenhouse gas, really 60 times as powerful, but it stays in the atmosphere a shorter time than CO2. The factory receives a credit for a greenhouse gas offset of 21 times 6%, or 126% of its total energy usage, and now can declare its operations climate neutral, no net contribution to global warming. For a further modest investment in verifiable offsets, the factory can neutralize its entire supply chain's contribution to greenhouse gases and global warming and declare its products now to be climate neutral for their full life cycle, third-party certified. The marketing arm of the factory realizes the market appeal of climate neutral and dubs its climate neutral products Cool Carpet, which becomes a huge marketing success, contributing incremental sales and lifting the company's image in ways that advertising never could. Sure enough, we see that waste can be food, as in nature. In nature, one organism's waste is another's food. What does nature have to do with business? Well, we shall see. A product designer, frustrated with lack of progress in implementing sustainable design, pleads, let's do something, anything. So a designer redesigns a typical product to have just 1 ounce per square yard less, about 4% less of its most expensive and energy-intensive material component, in this case, DuPont nylon. The redesigned product performs well in all the usual tests, so for the moment, this is considered to be the something that the designer was pleading for. But an engineer thinking new kinds of thoughts wonders about the effect upstream of this kind of design modification if it were made across the factory's entire product line. So he asked DuPont a question that DuPont has never, ever been asked before. How much energy did DuPont expend from the wellhead to my receiving dock in making and delivering that bit of nylon? We now know to call this embodied energy. DuPont response is applied by the inquiring engineer across this hypothetically redesigned product line, and to his amazement and everyone else's, on an annualized basis, this turns out to be enough energy not used by DuPont, call it nega energy, to run the engineer's entire factory for half a year. Today, the average product in this factory contains 17% less nylon than 10 years ago. Products are more beautiful than ever, and all perform extremely well on the floor, and the offset created upstream every year is equivalent to more than 2 years of nega energy. To Earth's very great benefit. The approach is now referred to as dematerialization through conscious design. It's new thinking that considers upstream effects, whole system optimization of another type with expanded boundaries of consideration, reaching back into the supply chain all the way to the wellhead and the mine. The new thinking reminds us that each of our companies or organizations or cities or buildings is its entire supply chain. Your footprint and mine include your suppliers and my suppliers. Footprints. No one stands alone. A team of engineers, production personnel, and product designers collaborate to find another way to create patterned carpet. The conventional way employed for years by the factory and its chief competitors is to wet print patterns on a plain colored carpet base. Wet printing is water intensive and energy intensive, requiring an aqueous dye application, high energy steaming to fix the dye, washing to remove the excess unfixed dye, and energy intensive drying to remove the wash water. Excess dye and wash water also require chemical treatment before release into the waterways. But new thinking suggests that the tufting machine that forms the pile face of the carpet in the first place has untapped potential to precisely place tufts of yarn of selected colors to form quite intricate patterns. So the bold decision is made to burn the bridges and abandon wet printing altogether, to scrap the existing stranded investment. Left with only one means of creating patterns which the marketplace demands, development efforts result in entirely new families of patented inventions, giving the factory a proprietary edge rather than a handicap in its marketplace.